working for the community for the last 22 years. She is also co-founder of Vadodara Waste CBO in Gujarat, that is Lux Trust. It works for the welfare of transgender community. Lux is the CBO which runs the Garima Greh in Gujarat right now. So with this, moving ahead, I would like to give brief introduction about the Transgender Resource Center and its objectives. Uh, Transgender Resource Center is continuously working for the trans community since its inception in April 2018, and its objective is to spread awareness among transgender students and to give information about how to access the education and to make them aware about the employment opportunities. With this, now I would like to welcome you, ma'am, on the behalf of our HOD, Professor Rajesh sir. Thank you for
Thank you.
accepting our invitation.
Okay. I just have a
So,
question.
shall
So,
we start?
is the
Yes.
Transgender Resource Center only has students who are trans, or it is for everyone?
It is for everyone, ma'am. It
Yeah.
is for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for this. So, just a
So,
minute. I need to. I
shall we
need to.
start?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please.
sure. Please tell us.
Yeah. So I need to share my screen. I will be able to do it from here, I suppose. Yeah, I can present it from here, I suppose. You-
Okay. Okay.
Just a minute. Let me. Not sure. Just a minute. Let me start presenting. I'm just a minute. Not a great techno person. Otherwise, so
That's okay. That's fine.
Akansha, you will have to give her the co-host rights, I think.
yeah, that's what because. Thank you so much for this. So just let me know when I can share the. Is the presentation visible now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
It's visible, ma'am.
It is, na?
Please carry on.
Yeah, thank you.
It is.
Okay, so let me introduce myself. Thank you for introducing, but I'm going
Ma'am, you're not audible.
okay. So basically, today we are going to talk about Garima Greh, which is the shelter home for transgender communities, basically, and this is also a skill building and rehabilitation center for trans people, uh, fully supported by Social Defense Bureau, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and of course, Government of Gujarat, Government of India. Sorry. So today I will be kind of talking about what exactly Garima Greh is all about, the details, the facilities, what are the what are prerequisites of getting a Garima Greh, and how the things basically function on a day-to-day basis, and what is the larger vision of something like a Garima Greh, and how it is as we've put here as a ray of hope, how it is so much hopeful for communities which are otherwise uh, very marginalized. Okay, so basically that's about it. So before kind of dwelling into what exactly Garima Greh is and all, let's kind of go a bit backwards, as in, let's go to the background of it. Let's have a context of the whole thing. So this whole thing, actually, the whole issues of transgenders basically started way back in 2014, and the very famous Nalsa versus the Union of India judgment. So the background of Nalsa judgment, in fact, is also that there were a series and a host of consultations which were done across the country in different states with the transgender communities through community based organizations. And then basically a case was filed, which was Nalsa versus the Union of India. And on 15th April 2014, judgment of this Honorable Supreme Court, which kind of, came. And it was also historic and in many ways a very breakthrough kind of a judgment where, the legal recognition to trans identities, including the third gender identity, was given. This was much before Section 377 was, decriminalized, or homosexuality was decriminalized. Uh, and basically, after the judgment which came in, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment was actually appointed as a nodal ministry to look into the issues of transgenders and how those issues across India could be addressed. Uh, you know, Having just a kind of a bird's eye view of what exactly went into Nalsa judgment is basically, they looked into public health, sanitation, as in, the government, uh, the court actually directed the governments, both state and the central governments, to look at, medical care of transgender people. Issues like, separate toilets have to be built, different facilities have to be built for that, you know and importantly, because a lot of transgender, the only program which actually technically recognized transgender communities way before the Nalsa judgment was HIV program. So even before Nalsa judgment, there have been organizations, there have been so much of work which was done, especially in the field of HIV, for trans communities. So, a lot of work in terms of separate HIV surveillance measures for transgenders, etc., would be kind of, given and all. Uh, of course, the judgment also kind of touched on the socio-economic rights of trans communities, where the center and the state governments were asked to provide various social welfare schemes to treat the community as socially and economically backward classes, since, all the communities, especially the trans communities, and with the communities within the transgender umbrella, they they were always marginalized. So the idea was to kind of, get a lot of social welfare schemes to get communities into the mainstream conversation, which was otherwise happening. Okay, so the idea was to extend reservation in educational institutions, public appointments, jobs, and stuff like that. Importantly, as it is known that, stigma and public awareness about trans communities is very, very less. So, the broader directions from for the state governments and the central government was to look at public awareness, how the stigma and the discrimination could be uh, reduced, how, they can get a more respectable place in the society. A lot of fear, shame, gender dysphoria, social pressure, how how to kind of tackle these issues, basically also was kind of given into the national legal Nalsa judgment versus the Union of India judgment. In fact, the judgment went into also saying that the marriages for transgender people should also be there should be some functionality of the marriage part also to be given for transgender communities. Okay. uh, so are we clear till now about the context? Hello.
Clear, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
now, yeah, yeah. So now, so this is basically the context and the background. How did it came through? So then, after the Nalsa judgment, the government came out with its own TG Act. Then there were some amendments in the TG Act with a lot of consultation with the communities. uh, किसी का माइक शायद चालू है, if someone can mute their mic. Yeah, thank you. So if you look at the TG Act, the TG Act basically uh, clearly says, you know, clearly talks about, I would say, the rescue, protection, and rehabilitation of transgender persons and address the needs of such people. When we look at the TG Act, it clearly says, it clearly talks about rehabilitation, rescue, because a lot of transgender people, I would say majority of transgender people, also face a lot of uh, violence from the immediate family, from the peers, uh, from within the communities also. So the idea of the Garima Greh is also to look at the rescue part of it, the protection part of it, and the rehabilitation part of it. So the establishment of Garima Greh also, the idea of the Garima Greh was also under the alignment of Section 12(3) of the TG Act 2019, which says that whether any parent or member of his immediate family is unable to take care of transgender person, the competent court shall, by an order, direct such person to be placed in the rehabilitation center. Okay, so that is also, so basically transgender, the Garima Greh basically has very strong roots within the Transgender Act of 2019. uh, of course, the idea also was to provide a safe and a secure environment. The idea is to provide security, a safe space, which will go a long way in empowerment of transgenders. Presently, there are many welfare schemes for vulnerable groups, but a huge section of the community doesn't have access to basic facilities, including proper housing facilities. Hence, there was an urgent need to start transgender shelter home facility with the inbuilt provision of skill development. So, when we look at the whole concept of Garima Greh or the transgender shelter home, it does not only provide the residential facility or the shelter part of it, but it also looks at skill development very equally. And then the idea is to kind of build the skill of the people who are the residents of the Garima Greh, and then enable them to, or empower them to get jobs, to start their own businesses, jobs. They can provide some services. The idea is to kind of mainstream as many people as possible through the openings of jobs and livelihood opportunities. Okay, am I clear till now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. So when we look at the aim of Garima Greh, now we are kind of narrowing it down furthermore. So the main aim of Garima Greh is to provide shelter to transgender persons with basic amenities, very very basic things like roti, kapda, or makan. So food, medicine care, recreational facilities. Besides, it will provide support for capacity building and skill development of transgender persons. Okay. When we look at the objectives of Garimagra, so the objective, of course, is to provide with basic shelter, amenities of food, clothing, recreational, medical facilities, counseling, to safeguard the rights of TG persons. When we say this, we mean that there are many a times there have been legal paralegal issues also. So how do we kind of, when people come at the rescue center at the Garima Greh, a lot of times people run away from homes. Of course, they are adult age, because the age of anyone getting inside a Garima Greh is 18 plus, and it can go till 60 years of age. Any person who identifies himself or herself as a trans man or a trans woman or a trans person. Okay. uh, so a lot of times families basically want to get that uh, 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 their their son or daughter back to their home, and they don't want to go back, and in those kind of cases we have to take some legal help also. So the whole idea of safeguarding the rights also is a very important and integral part of the Garimagra. So that is one. The idea is to provide an enabling atmosphere and enabling environment in Garimagra by adopting uniform rules and regulations suited to be followed by all TG persons. And last but not the least, that through skill development and skill upgradation program, uh, provide a chance to the residents of the trans shelter home or the Garimagra to lead a decent and dignified life and protect them from atrocities and social stigma. So these are the objectives. Now, when we look at who is eligible to get into a Garimagra, okay, so here there are a few criterias. The first one being transgender person has to identify himself or herself as a trans person. Okay, so transgender certified by local authority and preferably living below the poverty line. This is a preferred this thing, but it is not always true, because there are people from very well-to-do families, but then they do not want to stay in the homes because of the stigma, the discrimination they face from their own family members, and they run away. A lot of people run away, and then they come to the Garimagra. So ideally, like a lot of, in fact a majority of government programs which are pro development and pro poor, Garimagra is also not an exception in that. Okay, so the idea is that the first chance would be given to the person who would be below poverty line and identifies himself or herself as a trans person. Okay, transgenders who are abandoned above, aged above 18 and below 60 years of age. I've already talked about this. Transgenders should not be engaged into sex work and beggary. So, historically, if we look at it, the society has never given them a fair chance to earn their employment through a lot of mainstream jobs or businesses, and because of that, traditionally a lot of transgenders are into sex work and beggary. But the idea of a Garimagra is that once the person comes in, the person should not be engaged into any kind of sex work or even beggary, because then it will defeat the whole purpose of providing the shelter and importantly providing the skill set needed to get into the mainstream jobs or businesses or whatever. Okay. Transgenders must be unemployed and not engaged into productive commercial activities. So, here, once again, the main criteria also is about the financial position, in terms of that they are not employed, they should not be engaged into any other commercial activity, as in they should not be earning their livelihood, or they're engaged into any job or anything like that. Because if they're already engaged in any jobs, it would totally defeat the purpose. This safe space is exclusively for the people who are not employed and who are not making their living through any jobs. Okay. Yeah. So technically, hello. Yeah. Yeah. So technically, if we look at the structure of Garima Greh, so it is basically managed by the project management committee, as in a lot of other central government or state government run projects, which are headed by the local committees, which is then headed by a district magistrate. So all the Garima Grehs across India, presently we have 12 Garima Grehs running across the country, which we have one in Baroda, we have three in Mumbai, we have two in Kolkata, we have one in Raipur, we have one in Patna, we have one in Chennai, one in Bhubaneswar. Delhi also has one Garima Greh. Jaipur also has a Garima Greh. Imphal in the northeast was given a Garima Greh, but it was given back, citing the reasons that the organization who was supposed to run the Garima Greh uh, uh, was not equipped, or they were not in their full capacity to run it. So presently there are 12 Garima Grehs across India which are running. Okay. If we look at the day to day structure, the day to day activities through which the structure which makes it possible is basically we have in that structure, the structure is headed by the project director, project manager, account assistant, we have a bridge course coordinator. So the bridge course coordinator exclusively looks at the skill building aspect of it. We have counselor, we have a doctor who is a part time, we have a full time cook, multitask worker, sweeper, and three watchmen taking three shifts in 24 hours. So this is uh, a basic, I would say, structure of any Garima Greh. Uh, uh, so of course the idea is that the Garima Greh should be located in a residential locality, so that the residents of the Garima Greh are not disturbed by any unsculpturous elements. The Garima Greh should be well protected with security and CCTV cameras. Of course, the idea is to have a big signboard of Garima Greh with complete address and the scheme supporting it. We have that all the Garima Grehs basically have a very very open signage, very big signage, so that from far also people can recognize and people can read that, okay, this is a Garima Greh. Space requirement, ideally, the Garima Greh. So, uh, in a typical Garima Greh, the maximum capacity of a Garima Greh is 25 people, 25 residential people. The idea is to either have rooms or dormitories with approximately 50 square foot per residence. This is in a very technical sense, in terms of the very guideline of how the Garima Greh basically works. But apart from that, the rooms and the dormitories, Garima Greh also has medical and counseling room, recreational space, store rooms, bathrooms and toilets, office room and staff room, skill development room, kitchen and storage. So the whole idea is to have as vast and as big a place possible. Of course, it is also subjected to the budget allocation, which is very which is I would say uniform across all the Garimagrahs presently running in India. But ideally, the total built up space should be 3,000 square foot. Ideally, that's how the infrastructure part of Garimagrah basically is. Uh, Garima Greh, the facilities, of course, with very basic facilities, but we, of course, live lamps, generator, fans, television, radios. We have telephone, a helpline. Basically, we have a landline, which is a helpline, and helpline is published across the social media, and also in the social groups also, so that if anyone wants to reach out to the Garimagra even at the midnight of 12 o'clock, the phone is always active. People are there to take up the calls, so that's why the phone facilities are there. Of course, the laundry facilities, geysers for hot water, bathing and everything, storage facilities. Each and every residence of the Garima Grah, when it is in its full capacity of 25 people or even the lesser than 25, everyone is supposed to be given a storage facility to keep their personal belongings. We also have a concept of a basic welcome kit where we provide soap, towel, comb, hair oil, toothbrush, paste, slippers, some very basic toiletries which are kind of given and then replenished very regularly. In dormitories, if there are dormitories, to ensure privacy, there are sections which are created through curtains or movable panels and stuff like that. Okay. Very importantly, all the facilities of the Garimagra, especially the infrastructural facilities of Garimagra, are very much compliant with the Disability Act wherever it is required. For example, the toilets should be designed according to which are disability friendly. Okay, if there is a second or third floor, there should be a lift. So that is how basically so all the infrastructure has to be disability friendly as well. uh, when we talk about the services which are provided by the Garimagra to its inmates or its beneficiaries, so here we have 3 meals consisting of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, two tea and coffee, which is provided, one in the evening and one in the morning, recreational facilities like indoor games, radio, transistors, television. These are all provided.
मैम यू आर नॉट ऑडिबल. हेलो मैम, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Uh, let me call her. Let me call her.
यस योर.
Talk about the services which are available here. Uh, just a minute. Let because I'm on two devices now. Give me a moment. When we talk about you know the services which are available, 3 meals, as I said, and we also encourage. Uh, am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you are
Thank you.
audible.
Thank you.
Audible.
Yeah. So we also encourage people, volunteers from schools and colleges from locality. We have, students coming from colleges, schools, universities. Uh, uh, to take part in the activities and also design activities which are where we can involve people and beneficiaries from Garima Greh. For example, there are yoga classes going on. There are a lot of Zumba classes which young college kids, they help do. Uh, uh, you know Help do the whole dancing classes, Zumba classes, yoga. A lot of fitness stuff is also kind of going on, and equally I think the same goes for a lot of other Garimagras which uh, provide the services for the beneficiaries. um, uh, of course, the idea of the Garimagra is also to engage people, especially the residents of Garimagra, in cooking, gardening, maintaining records, maintaining inventory. So a lot of home stuff work, a lot of work which is there in the Garimagra is also being done by the residents themselves. Uh, uh, the idea is also to have a library, magazine, newspapers, so that people are aware about what is happening around. Uh, Legal support, as I've already told. That we have a legal aid support system, especially in collaboration with National Legal Service Authority. We have DALSA, District Legal Service Authority, whom we have tied up with. So if there are any cases which are pertaining to uh, something, anything which is related to socio legal issues, we kind of take help of that. The whole idea of the collaboration is to do that. Very, very importantly, Garimagra also provides transgender identity cards, basically, and a host of other documents, because Garimagra also works as a one center stop for provision of transgender identity cards, then Aadhaar card, PAN card, ration card, passports, because a lot of people run away from home with the bare minimum of clothes and maybe some money or no money at all. And then they land up at Garimagra, and then the whole new process of identity and identification and a lot of thing kind of goes into that. So Garimagra also provides those services, especially social entitlement services now for its beneficiaries. And not only for the beneficiaries, but all the Garimas which are running across India, they provide similar services to their local trans communities also. Okay, so this is not only in-house service, but also for the trans communities which are living in the same city or in the same district also, which is kind of done that way. So now coming majorly to the skill development part. Okay, so the idea of the purpose of the skill development training is to develop an enhanced livelihood skills, to create an alternative livelihood for the residents of resident transgenders. Here we have a mix of both soft as well as hard skills. So when we talk about soft skills, we do have, like, English speaking, personality development. We also have computer basics of computer. We have a lot of courses on driving, because a lot of trans men would want to go into uh, you know mechanics and being drivers and stuff like that. So we have kind of both all this. I think the courses which are which they want to pursue. The whole idea is that. So orientation on the importance of skill development required for improvement of the livelihood. Importantly, we collaborate with local technical institutions, majorly with the government institutions as well as free institutions, as well as private institutions, which provide either free of cost or at cost training. The idea is to kind of get that. So for example, there are a lot of courses running for trans women for beauty parlor, tailoring courses, cooking classes, for example. So that is also either they are kind of provided within the premises of Garima Greh, or the Garima Greh has collaborated with a much experienced skill development institute, or an NGO, and then they kind of they welcome people from Garima Greh into their regular classes. Okay, so once again, categorization is done according to the eligibility and suitability of the work, and it ranges from catering, tailoring, artificial jewelry making, beautician, a lot of things. So driving, as I've already mentioned. So this is basically about skill development. Um, uh, Idea. Okay, so we also a lot of Garima Greh also provides skill development courses on financial literacy and planning. So there are private sector banks like ICICI, HDFC, and Axis and all. They have agreed, and they've come to the campuses and provided maybe 2 or 3 hours. Uh, uh, I would not say lectures, but more of an interactive sessions where the questions. First is where the awareness regarding financial literacy has been raised. Also, how to do savings, where to invest, how to some very very simple things like opening bank accounts, how to go about it, and stuff like that. So that's also kind of done. uh, uh, the project director, who is the head of the Garima Greh, basically looks at all the liaising which happens with the skill development institutions. Okay. Of course, there are trainings on disaster management, first aid. These are kind of very compulsory trainings, which are kind of done every monthly, bi-monthly, which are kind of very recurring trainings, which are kind of done. And very importantly, uh, uh, all the Garima Greh beneficiaries are oriented on TG rights, especially on the light of Transgender Act 2019. This is one course which is done very regularly, so that even beyond their life across Garima Greh, they are aware about what are their basic rights, what they need to kind of demand when they are at any government facility, for example. Okay, so sorry, just a minute. Mm, just so we have examples, we have a lot of examples. Let me quote an example of one of the Garima Grehs in Bhubaneswar. They have done excellent work in tying up with Tata Steel, and almost 10 to 15 of their Garima Greh inmates are now working in Tata Steel Bokaro plant. and it was something very extraordinary, which kind of happened. Similarly, I would also like to give an example of Chhattisgarh, the Garima Greh, which is run in Raipur, where the whole batch of trans women, I think 8 to 9 of them were trained to be police constables, and now they are into the police force of Raipur. They have passed the exams and they are kind of working there now. So there are other Garima Grahs who have done excellent collaborations with corporates under CSRs. Okay, so a lot of corporates have come, like Axis Bank. Then we have HDFC, we have Axis, Big Basket, for example. They have come forward and they have offered their, offered jobs at the basic levels, and then if people, if the inmates of Garimagra are qualified enough, they have been also taken to the middle management and junior management level as well. Okay, so I think what is very heartening to see is that there are a lot of corporate houses which are coming up. For example, in Gujarat, Hindustan Unilever has come very strongly. We have uh, Big Basket, who has come up very strongly and supporting. They have come and said that even the person, if the person is even 10th passed, we will take the person on a entry level job, so at least the job is secured and the person then can start his or her life once again. So I think, and one has to also understand that this Garima Grahs and the skill development aspect of it is a pilot project which was started just in November, okay, last year. It's kind of almost a year now that it has been flown, and even the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, they are also looking at it, and they're saying that, okay, fine, let's see that how this uh, the pilot phase works, and then the idea is that in the short while, maybe after some time, what is going to be happening is that uh, uh, they will be starting, they will be actually then uh, uh, they will be actually going to new places. They will be extending a lot of new Garimagras across the country. That is the whole idea. Let me share my screen once again, because just a minute, I need to show you something. I hope it is it just just uh, yeah, just a minute, give me a, I wanted to show you a video, but just this is the video, basically looking. Is it audible?
Yeah, ma'am, it's visible.
Is it audible?
No, it's not audible.
I'm so sorry. Just a minute. Let me. I don't know how do you do that here. Kind of. Here it shows that it is, but I don't know. I'm sorry, because it is not audible, but maybe this should have shared uh, in advance. Maybe that would have helped. So this is basically. So let me kind of put an audio here. So this is basically the inauguration of the first Garima Greh in India, which was in Gujarat under Lakshya Trust, and we made a small video of what are the facilities which are kind of available here. This is a kitchen. We have beds. Uh, uh, Basically kind of giving a glimpse of how a typical bedroom or a dining room for that matter would look like. uh, this is this is a space for people sitting together. This is one of the beneficiaries. Her name is Charmi Makwana. She is speaking in Gujarati, and she's basically talking about her story. That how she ended up being in Garima Greh, and how Lakshya supported uh, her to get. Basically, she is from a small village, an interior part of Gujarat, and now she is very much living here. And she's got, and at that point in time, she has just started her skill building classes. This is once again the kitchen. This is one of the other beneficiaries. Her name is Sneha. She's talking basically about how her family had abandoned her, means she was thrown out of the house, and how now she has found a home. uh, and how she is thinking of getting a new job. This is a Kinner. She is from the Kinner community, and she is saying that now for the first time there would be another option also apart from begging and sex work. Though she is from the Kinder community, but she would want her the next generations to have options of a lot of other things, not only sex work and begging. So this is once again this a lot of colors, a lot of colorful this thing. um, uh, I'm sorry for the audio, and this is me. Uh, uh, Basically, I'm actually thanking all my stakeholders, which includes Ministry of Social Justice Empowerment, Government of India, and also the larger vision of what Garima Greh intends to do in the near future. That's the that's the whole idea of this video. Uh, Presently, at the Garima Greh, which is run by Lakshya Trust, we have 17 resident people, and we we have covered almost 31 people. Quite a few have got their jobs and they have moved on their with lives, and they have kind of uh, gone back to the mainstream society, I would say. Yeah. This is more of a formal thanks to the ministry and other people who have made this possible. Maybe next time, whenever we have something of a interaction like this, I will share videos in advance so that it would be more easier uh, to kind of look at it. Thank you. So yeah, and
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
yeah, so just small snippets of other Garima Grahs. For example, here we have um, uh, a lot of Garima Greh also has open university classes going on, stitching classes, a lot of it into fashion. We have Raipur and Mumbai doing computer stitching. Uh, then once again Chennai, spoken English classes. This is a lot of courses are done in house. A lot of courses are also done in, as I said, in collaboration with other organizations, institutions. Okay, basic gardening. Delhi, Mumbai, once again, cooking. A lot of them are excellent cooks. Okay, so that's one. Here, this is basically the celebration of Independence Day. Uh, okay, and Baroda, Chennai. As I said, just talked about the transgender cards, advocacy with the police officials that's happened in Chennai. Yeah, this is Kolkata, one of the most colorful Garima Grahs, I would say. Uh, yeah. And yeah, this is finally Baroda. We also do a lot of birthday celebrations. So yeah, that's so yeah. Now I'm done. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful presentation. And now I would like to inform you all that we have Professor Rajesh also. Sir, are you there? Sir? Oh, okay. Basically, the presentation was very informative, ma'am. You made us let us know how every aspect of Garima Greh was very beautiful.
Thank
You
you.
have explained well, and now the floor is open for all. If you have any questions, you can ask. Anyone?
We can't hear you.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
you are.
Madam Sylvie, good evening.
You're audible.
Good evening. Good evening.
And wonderful. So that gives a lot of confidence to see your work that has been happening, and it gives a lot of hope that things काम हो सकता है. अगर करना
Yes.
चाहे तो काम हो सकता है. So thank you so much. One area of study, some of research of for us is that कि these people who are with you in the Garima Grah, we
Hmm.
are also trying to understand. आप ज्यादा बेटर बता सकते हैं इनका इनके पेरेंट्स के साथ में क्या रिलेशन है. क्या ऐसा कभी हुआ है कि कोई पेरेंट इनको ढूंढकर फिर से आया है? क्या ऐसा कभी हुआ है कि इनमें से कोई अपने पेरेंट को आज भी सपोर्ट कर रहा है जैसे कोई और व्यक्ति सपोर्ट करता है? क्या इनके सिबलिंग्स कोई हैं जो गरिमा गृह में इनसे मिलने आते हैं जिस तरह से बाकी सिबलिंग्स आपस में मिलते हैं? तो ये हमारे लिए एक रिसर्च का विषय है कि ट्रांस कम्युनिटी के सिबलिंग्स पेरेंट्स का क्या रिलेशंस हैं और आप एज अ मेंटर वहां पर क्या ऑब्जर्व करती हैं उनके रिलेशंस को.
Okay, thank you, Santoshi, for the question. Now, देखिए, हमारा जो अनुभव है, और व्हेन आई से हमारा, आई कैन स्पीक ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ गरिमा ग्रह, which is run by Lakshya Trust. Okay, there are rest 11 other Garima Grahs across the length and breadth of this country. But कॉमन ऑब्जर्वेशन जो हुआ है वो ये है कि दो तीन चीजें यहाँ होती है। एक तो कि अगर घर से निकाल दिया जाता है या घर से किसी को अबेंडन किया जाता है, तो लोग बाहर निकल कर, जब बाहर निकलते हैं तो उसमें एक सिचुएशन ये होती है कि हाँ थोड़े दिनों के बाद आ जाएगा, कहाँ जाएगा, कहाँ जाएगी, एक वो होता है, ठीक है। बट क्योंकि वॉयलेंस, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, उसका इतना ज्यादा ये हो रहता है, असर रहता है या फिर से हो जाता है कि फिर लोग वापस वापस भाग जाते हैं, ठीक है। तो हमारे अनुभव में ऐसे दो केसेस आए हैं कि जहां पापा और भाई उनको ढूंढते हुए आए हैं, ठीक है। और जो भी व्यक्ति आता है वो ऑब्वियसली 18 साल के ऊपर ही होते हैं, तो ही उनको एडमिशन है, ये तो बहुत क्लियर है, बिकॉज इट इज अ होल गवर्नमेंट रन प्रोजेक्ट, सो वी हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी क्लियर ऑन दोज पार्ट। नाउ हम आइडियली हम मध्यस्थी कराने की कोशिश करते हैं, ओके। हम बीच में आने की कोशिश करते हैं, हम बोलते हैं कि हाँ चलो एक बार डायलॉग हो सकता है, एक बार हम बातचीत कर लेते हैं, अगर इफ यू वांट टू गो बैक। माँ बाप को भी समझाते हैं उनको, क्योंकि काफी कुछ इश्यू इग्नोरेंस की वजह से होता है। लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि जेंडर आइडेंटिटी का इश्यूज क्या है, सेक्सुअल ओरिएंटेशन अलग चीज है, ठीक है। अवेयरनेस ही नहीं है इसके बारे में। तो और ज्यादातर अपराध इसलिए होते हैं क्योंकि लोगों को पता ही नहीं है, ओके। और ये भी होता है कि माँ बाप भी देखो, जो भी है कोई आइसोलेशन में नहीं रहता है, वो भी सोसाइटी में रहते हैं, उनके पड़ोस में भी एक घर है जहां कोई एक भाभी रहेगी जो 24 घंटे उनका नजर वहां इस घर पे रहता है, ठीक है। सामने कोई बुआ जी रहेगी, कोई दूसरे रहेंगे। ये वी आर एन इंडियन सोसाइटी, सो आई थिंक माँ बाप को ज्यादा प्रेशर जो है वो सोसाइटी से ज्यादा है, ठीक है। बट हैविंग सेड सो, क्या होता है कि एक केस में, आई थिंक दोनों केस में ये हुआ था कि लोग वापस गए हैं, ओके। एक व्यक्ति वापस आया है मगर जाकर, क्योंकि जाने के बाद फिर से वही चक्र शुरू हो जाता है, ठीक है। तो ऐसे भी इश्यूज होते हैं, देखिए कि अगर सिबलिंग्स की बात करते हैं तो प्रेशर ट्रांसजेंडर्स पर इसलिए भी ज्यादा आता है कि ओके तू तो ऐसा है तो तुझे देखकर तेरी बहन को कोई लड़का नहीं देगा, तेरे भाई की शादी नहीं होगी, ठीक है। ये बहुत प्रैक्टिकल इश्यूज है, ठीक है। तो वो जो घर की सो कॉल्ड इज्जत बचाने के लिए या जो भी है, उनकी बलि दी जाती है कि ठीक है अगर नहीं आता है तो ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, एटलीस्ट इसकी बहन का शादी हो जाएगा, उसका भाई का तो कोई हो जाएगा, कुछ ना कुछ तो होगा, तो दैट इज वन थिंग। सिबलिंग्स का इंटरनल रिलेशनशिप अलग अलग केसेस में अलग अलग देखा गया है। जैसे कि टिपिकली हाँ अगर अच्छा बनता है, सपोर्टिव है, तो भी एक हद से ज्यादा कितना सपोर्ट कर पाएंगे, ठीक है। क्योंकि सिबलिंग्स को भी अवेयरनेस इतनी ज्यादा है नहीं, ठीक है। थोड़े मेच्योर्ड हो जाते हैं, थोड़े बड़े हो जाते हैं, जब प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स और उसका सब पता चलने लगता है सिबलिंग्स को भी, तो उनको ये भी है कि चलो ठीक है, बहती गंगा है तो चलो, अच्छा है, गया तो गया, तो ज्यादातर हमारे नाम में भी हो जाएगा। ये भी हुआ है काफी केसेस में। अ, इसीलिए भी अबेंडन किया जाता है कि ठीक है ये तो कोई, इसको वैसे भी कुछ करना नहीं है, उसको हक तो देना ही नहीं है, ये जो भी पूरी प्रॉपर्टी या जो भी जायदाद होगी घर की, वो हम मिल बांट कर हम ही वो लोग कर लेंगे। तो ये भी एक पॉइंट है। दूसरे पॉइंट्स में ये भी हुआ है कि हाँ सिबलिंग्स एक्सेप्ट करते हैं, मगर ये बोलते हैं कि जो तुझे जो भी करना है वो बाहर करना, यहाँ जो जब भी आए तो ठीक ठाक उस हिसाब से आना, जैसे यू आर एक्सेप्टेड एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स, थोड़े दिन रहना, वापस चले जाना एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स। सो इट इज वंस अगेन, यू लाइक इट और नॉट, इट इज अ गिव एंड टेक रिलेशनशिप, ओके। सो ये भी होता है। माओ का मैंने देखा है, बहुत ज्यादा निस्वार्थ होता है, ठीक है। पापा भाई एंड ऑल इतना कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करते जितनी माएँ करती है, ठीक है। माएँ समझती है, मगर उनकी चलती नहीं है, घरों में, ठीक है। तो अलग अलग में अलग अलग होता है। काफी ऐसे भी केसेस है कि जहां लोग वापस गए हैं, इनफैक्ट घरों को ज्यादा पैसा भी दिया है खुद कमा के, ओके, खुद कमा के पैसा दिया है, खुद अच्छे से उनको सपोर्ट किया है। मगर वंस अगेन ये भी होता है कि ठीक है, तुम ये महिलाओं के कपड़े पहनते हो या तुम ऐसे एक्ट करते हो तो तुम फुल टाइम यहाँ नहीं रह सकते, आओ जाओ ये ठीक है, बट जब तक हमारा स्वार्थ ये होता है। और दूसरे केसेस में ये भी देखा है कि माँ बाप के साथ भी रहते हैं, बहुत अच्छी एक्सेप्टेंस भी है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, वैसे भी है। सो 5 उंगली जैसे एक जैसे नहीं होती है, ट्रांस में भी, ट्रांस अम्ब्रेला में भी हर एक केस यूनिक होता है। बट ज्यादातर केस में अगर देखा जाए तो घर से बाहर निकलना पड़ता है या निकाल दिए जाते हैं।
थैंक यू।
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to ask anything?
आवाज आ रही है मेरी? हेलो।
Yes, yes.
हाँ, हाँ,
में जो
yes.
ज्यादातर केसेस में ये होते हैं कि ब्रदर एक्सेप्ट तो कर लेते हैं, मतलब सिबलिंग्स हैं एक्सेप्ट तो कर लेते हैं, बट वो यही बोलते हैं कि ठीक है तुझे जैसे रहना है रहो। क्योंकि मेरी भी काफी सारी केस स्टडी है इसके ऊपर, मैंने बात की है काफी सारे ट्रांसजेंडर से और कुछ मेरे फ्रेंड्स भी हैं। तो लेकिन उनके साथ जो सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत है, वो घर में भी आ जाते हैं, घर में भी रहते हैं, गली में भी उन्हें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, क्योंकि वो लोग बचपन से उन्हें जानते हैं। दिक्कत तब आती है जब उनकी फैमिली को कहीं पे जाना है, किसी सेलिब्रेशन में जाना है, किसी कल्चरल प्रोग्राम में जाना है, उस समय उन्हें सबसे ज्यादा दिक्कत होती है, क्योंकि वो इस चीजों को अटेन नहीं कर पाते और उन्हें सबसे ज्यादा मेंटली टॉर्चर वहां पे होता है। तो जो जहां तक मैंने उनसे बात किया था, इस चीजों में उन्हें सबसे ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम है। तो मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि क्या कभी ऐसा हुआ है गरिमा गृह के थ्रू या वैसे आपने एक्सपीरियंस किया हो कि जब उन्हें जॉब मिल जाती है, जब वो अच्छे वर्किंग कंडीशन में आ जाते हैं, तो क्या वो वापस उनकी फैमिली उन्हें एक्सेप्ट करती है? क्या उनके कल्चरल जो ये चीजें हैं उसमें वापस उनका एक्सेप्टेंस होता है या नहीं होता?
देखिए, आई थिंक वंस अगेन ऐसी कोई सीधी स्टडी नहीं है कि जिसका डेटा हम उठाकर दिखा सके, ओके। बट अनुभव ये दिखाता है, हमारा जो अनुभव है इवन किन्नर कम्युनिटी में भी, कि जब आप अच्छे से धन उपार्जन कर लेते हो, पैसा आपके हाथ में आ जाता है, कैश इज द किंग, यू लाइक इट और नॉट, ठीक है। कमाता बच्चा या बच्ची जो है वो हमेशा अच्छे लगते हैं, ठीक है। तो यहां भी वो है कि अगर अगर आउट ऑफ वे जाकर सपोर्ट करते हैं फैमिलीज को, ठीक है, तो वो एक्सेप्टेंस होता है। बट वंस अगेन आई थिंक क्योंकि इतनी ज्यादा वॉयलेंस और इतना ज्यादा डिस्क्रिमिनेशन ऑलरेडी पहले से हो चुका होता है विद इन, कि वो दरारें भी पड़ने लगती है। बट समहाउ कितने लोग वो एडजस्ट करते हैं, कितने नहीं करते हैं, तो कोई बाहर रहता है। सो इसका कोई ऐसा सीधा वो नहीं है, बिकॉज इट इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम केस टू केस, ओके। इट इज वेरी वेरी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम पीपल टू पीपल।
जी सर, जी मैम,
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
so much.
Anyone else?
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, Parveen.
Madam.
Yes.
Yes, madam. I don't know whether to ask in this. I'm from Tirupati, first semester, MA.
Hmm.
I just want to know. Okay, let it make it short. A week ago, I just was sitting in my university grounds and working with something. A person came and was sitting around me for more than half an hour. So after more than half an hour, after he approached me personally and was asking for physical help. I said, okay, I can't do all these things. So I don't know. I know he wants some help. He wants some guide. Then I said, oh, yeah, इस तरफ होता रहता है. Sorry, मेरा हिंदी भी कुछ थोड़ा अच्छा है.
It's okay, Chepandi.
Oh, okay. You know Telugu.
Like thoda, not whole thing, okay?
Okay. Then I don't know. I just said him positively that yes, there are people, there are so many others But in Tirupati, as far as I'm concerned, there is a group, not one group. There are so many groups, this transgender, but they are mostly involved in begging issues and other some uh, usual things. And I just want to know, is there any proper approach? I mean, how to आपको तो पता है ये ग्रिल तो आपने किया, ये गवर्नमेंट इज प्रोवाइडिंग, बट इन तिरुपति वी डोंट हैव सच you know such kind of help, or what you say, help
Yeah,
is mentally.
yeah.
So how should
Okay.
um,
Okay, so how do we address the issue? That's what the question is.
yes, sorry,
Okay,
yes, man.
that's okay. I'm fine with sir or madam. I'm just okay. I don't care. So so the thing is that first is that, look, we have to go into the background of the whole thing. It is just, look, it is, we are almost nearing to 75 years of Indian independence,
Yes,
and now we are talking about transgenders. Okay,
yes,
1947, 2022. Okay, so it's a huge gap now. First, we have to acknowledge that gap. Second, for all these years and beyond, even before, even before independence, during the British Raj, Mughals, and all those things. Okay, uh, they were always into their traditional work of either sex work or their begging thing. Okay, now suddenly after 75 years, just because of some government policy, people want them to change their professions, people want to change their lifestyle in 1 or 2 years. It is impossible. One has to understand that, because this Indian society, or we have taken 75 silent years, एकदम आराम से हमने तो टाइम लिया है ना अपना, ये करने के लिए कि हाँ चलो, we will reach out to them. Now, just because a government, look, I respect whatever the efforts are done by the government. Okay, but the government has started working very, very, very recently. In fact, transgender movement is the youngest civil society movement in India. One has to understand, we started talking about women's rights in 50s. Okay, we started about talking about pregnancies and family plannings in mid 50s 60s से शुरू कर दिया था health का. ठीक है, we have just started, or we have just started talking about transgender rights in just a couple of years now. Okay, so first is that uh, uh, for me, for example, if I ask you that, you know, in Tirupati, if I ask all the Brahmins that, okay, fine, I will give you all the government facilities and policies and all, you stop the puja of Sri Balaji, okay, and come tomorrow and start working in white collared jobs. Would they do? Would everyone do that? No,
no,
they won't, because it is their traditional business. It is the tradition which is bounding them. You have to understand, tradition is very strong. So even if for example, it took Brahmins, it took Vaishyas, it took everyone to shift their jobs 75 years. Okay, they were doing their traditional work before independence. Very less Brahmins, very less Kshatriyas, very less they were into jobs and all. Okay, now you are, after 75 years, you find the whole Silicon Valley, which is dominated by Indian IT companies and all headed by Brahmins, for example. Okay, now this is after 75 years. You are talking to a marginalized community who has traditionally been into dancing, into asking for begging कि एक दिन में आप अपना काम धंधा छोड़ दो, आपका आपका पूरा जो ट्रेडिशन है वो छोड़ दो. जिन the tradition had given them lot of money, the tradition has given them a identity, the tradition has this tradition has given them whatever they are having. You have to understand. Okay. So it takes time, and once again I think our approach should be that way, that okay, fine, if you want to continue with begging, no problem. Okay, it is not your fault, because in the school time only you were harassed so much by the students, by the teachers, by your parents, that you could not complete your studies. Simple. So what else you will do? You will go and ask for begging only, na? It is like that. So I think two or three approaches is important. Give them options. For example, in South, I think all the South Indian states, especially Kerala and Tamil Nadu, are very progressive when it comes to trans people. Okay, there are jobs, there is so many things which are happening. So once again, a lot of people are also getting educated. But for example, if we say that no, from tomorrow, all the transgender has to leave their begging and they have to come into mainstream, it is not going to be possible. It will take its own sweet time to do that. Okay, so I think talk to them, ask them that what would you like to do, because a lot of them are more than happy with whatever they are earning. They will be wearing gold and all those things. Okay, why they are doing this? Because the tradition has supported this. Okay, you don't have to forget that. And tomorrow if I go and tell them that okay, the same tradition, usko लात मार दो जिसने सालों से आपका पेट भरा है, no one is going to do that. It will take time. So I think best is to befriend them, know more about them, and then if there are people who want to study, if there are people who want to do jobs, maybe link them with organizations. For example, there are some excellent organizations in Hyderabad. Okay, there are some excellent organizations in Vijayawada also, which are community based organizations. There are people, activists, transgender activists, who are working also. So we also, as people, we do not advocate that you have to leave your begging and all. Because of begging they are known. Because of begging, that is the only thing which has supported them for thousands of years. I cannot tell them कि आप ये छोड़ दो तुरंत. Yeah, if I'm answering you, I don't know if I'm answering you. Thank you.
सिल्वी मैम,
Okay.
सिल्वी मैम, we understand that working within a community, कोई भी community के बीच में काम करते हैं, और radically जब हम बात करते हैं change का, तो आपको भी बहुत opposition face करना पड़ता होगा. We know that within the community also people would tell you, why are you bringing in these modern things in a community. I understand that happens. One of the approach of education that you just mentioned was of एक्सक्लूसिव ट्रेनिंग अप्रोच. से फॉर एग्जांपल आप लोग अलग से वर्कशॉप कराते हैं, आप लोग सिलाई का वर्कशॉप्स कराते हैं, which is exclusively for the community. Delhi University, through the Transgender Resource Centers and all, what we are trying to do is that bring in the trans community members and sit down with the regular children and study, which is a very kind of an ideal, एक सपना है हमारा. तो आपको क्या लगता है, ये इंक्लूसिवली उनको लाकर किसी यूनिवर्सिटी में, दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ाना, क्या वो एक बहुत बड़ा, बहुत दूर का सपना है, या वी शुड स्टिल फोकस ऑन, से फॉर एग्जांपल, शुड ट्रांसजेंडर रिसोर्स सेंटर दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी फोकस ऑन exclusive trainings for them, or should we do work to bring them and make them sit within the class? What is your expert opinion on that?
Look, what I feel is it can be a mixed approach. Okay, it can be very well, it cannot be either or, but it can be mixed approach. एकदम एकदम स्ट्रीट लैंग्वेज बोलूं तो जिस पानी से दाल उबलती है उबालो. Okay, For example, there would be cases where, for example, कि बहुत exclusive करके, I'm sure there would be, Delhi University is such a big name, you have such infrastructure and everything, maybe some exclusive classes could work very good. But in the longer term, what I feel that tomorrow or day after tomorrow or whenever they have to face the world, everyone has to face the world, everyone will have to be mainstreamed. Okay, so wherever people are comfortable getting into, आज से 100 साल पहले लड़के लड़कियां साथ में कहाँ पढ़ते थे, लड़कियों को तो पढ़ना भी कहाँ ये था, ठीक है, बट फर्स्ट वुमन, first girl child, when she stepped out of the house, she made a history. Okay, same, to take it that way. व्हाट आई फील सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट मुझे ये भी लग रहा है कि द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड द स्टाफ शुड बी वेरी सपोर्टिव ऑफ ट्रांस स्टूडेंट्स. सो आई थिंक वी शुड हैव अ जेंडर check, a gender, maybe a trans check or a transgender check on the, जैसे जैसे gender audit होता है, for example, is our university or are our classes, जो इनका इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, आर दे ट्रांस फ्रेंडली इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, फॉर एग्जाम्पल. ओके, ट्रांस फ्रेंडली इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर माने कि ट्रांस बाथरूम्स और टॉयलेट्स बने हैं अलग से, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ठीक है. आर अवर स्टाफ सेंसिटाइज्ड, do they know about some very basic things about what is sexual orientation, what is the difference between sexual orientation, gender identity, okay, trans act के बारे में क्या पता है. तो मुझे ये लग रहा है कि हमको एक नहीं, दो या तीन अलग अलग अप्रोचेस करने चाहिए. एक जो एक्सक्लूसिव है, जहां we take cognizance of people, let them kind of give inputs to us and say कि नहीं नहीं, हमको ना एक एक्सक्लूसिव क्लास, छोटा बैच, मगर हमको 10 लोगों का ही चाहिए. ओके फाइन, वी आर ओके टू डू दैट आल्सो. सो मे बी दैट, इफ दैट वर्क्स फॉर दैट ग्रुप, ग्रेट. दिल्ली इज ह्यूज. ओके, now then there would be a lot of trans people who would say कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, we are fine getting into the mainstream class, but just make sure कि हमारी कोई खट्टी मस्करी मजाक कोई उड़ाए ना, ठीक है, no one makes fun of us and stuff like that. So maybe that is where the sensitivity of an organization like you would come in. So are your staff trained properly? Do they know about gender issues? Is your infrastructure supporting that? Do you have trans supportive policies, for example, as an organization? I can go a bit further. Do you have trans people in your staff, फॉर एग्जाम्पल? ओके, सो ये ऐसा है ना कि जितनी शक्कर डालोगे उतना हलवा मीठा बनेगा. ठीक है, सो इट इज अप टू यू कि हाउ डू वी स्ट्रेच आवरसेल्व्स, how much can we stretch ourselves. It's basically, but we can and हर एक बड़ा कदम जो होता है एक छोटे कदम से शुरू होता है. So we can start with a small initiative, like for example what we are doing to get today, for example, and I'm sure you as an organization would have done a lot of other workshops equally. Okay, आपने किया ही होगा. तो ऐसे ऐसे धीरे 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 मुझे लग रहा है कि 360 डिग्री व्यू होना चाहिए कि how much are we trans inclusive in our approach. It starts from education, it starts from policies, it can go to the staff, it can go to infrastructure, it can go 360 actually. That's what my answer would be if I'm answering your question.
Thank you. There was a lot of clarity in that. It was
Thank you so much, ma'am. You have explained very well every aspect of Garima Greh as well. And I have a question, that if you want to give all of us a message regarding the community, what would be the message? What should be the obligation of society towards the community?
Look, as something, as someone on the helm of teaching, और आज तो सरस्वती पूजा है. ठीक है. सो मीन्स आप लोग जो है वो गुरु का दर्जा सबसे पहला होता है. Even in the transgender communities also, when we talk about Guru Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar, what we say basically, ठीक है, and what best than Vasant Panchami today, basically, ठीक है. I think आप लोग torch bearers हो, inclusive, the whole idea of inclusiveness जो है उसके टॉर्च बेरर्स आप हो. सो आपके कंधे पर बहुत ज्यादा भार भी है कि इसको कैसे सही और सचोट तरीके से हम आगे ले जाए और सही मायनों में हम कैसे इंक्लूसिव करें. और हमारे जो भी संदेश है, जो भी हमारे मैसेजेस है स्पेसिफिकली फॉर ट्रांस कम्युनिटीज जो है वो फैक्चुअली सही, साइंटिफिकली सही तरीके से हम लोगों को दे पाए और इम्पोर्टेंटली कम्युनिटी की आवाज इसमें कैसे हम ला सके. आई थिंक उसका जितना ज्यादा प्रयत्न होगा, as someone who are teachers themselves, because you help make the society. आप बनाते हो लोगों को. शिक्षण ही है ना ये तो at the end of the day. So I think make it more inclusive, be the torch bearers, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, well, sir is here, I think.
I
Sir?
think it was a very good discussion. I was listening most of the things. Initial part I missed because I just share that university is celebrating the 100 years in this year. And there was a committee which the Vice Chancellor was addressing on how to undertake and what to undertake the activity on centenary year. And when I think you were getting the input, I think she was very right that historically, chronologically, she discussed the how changes were made. And I understand sitting in the largest central university, and I am currently in the premises of the university itself. It is very difficult to change. I have written so many letters, persuaded, but I could not so far successful to be what you call gender neutral washroom and other things. Discuss with the dean student welfare what is required. A lot many persuasion activities. Let's say Akanksha that on this occasion person like the resource person today and few of them, let us have some messages. You compile the brief messages on this centenary year, what they say in the caption, quote unquote, about inclusion in education. And she talked about when the first girl might have entered, the problem that might have faced, the same thing happening. Very well, said today. So maybe you compile 10, 12, 15, slogans or what, how to you do the inclusion in education sector, maybe school and education, some kind of a slogan, one thing, and then you are organizing a number of activities, maybe there, photographs and then slogan below, photographs and slogan coming 10, 12, whatever the activities you have done. And then that can be showcased to the university because you might have known that here also in the education is the first thing. But here also the process of inclusion only in by and large, only in the paper. It is said that let the large number of them join. How they will join? Unless we make the facilities for them, unless we make the gender neutral washroom, sports facility, hostel facility, library facility. It is not open. Even the person like Amrita ji and others used to come. She has to take permission from somebody. Otherwise, the guard do not allow to enter. So it is a process. How in a unique way we present showcase for the inclusion in the society. A Garima Greh very well explained about that, and we say that we are also trying. We called a linguistic girl of our student, and I think it was she was there with Siva Singh, and I have given. She has some training with the British Council. I hope she is making a. I have given an assignment to make a 15 days capsule course for English language and skill building proficiency course through what you call Garima Greh. And once she gives me Sia gives me the kind of a capsule, I will discuss and then we'll try to implement where the persons from the field, where the persons from and life skill there to provide them some kind of a and I ensure that we, our team, young team members, will try our level best that how some educational activity, skill building, and competency round the clock can happen in the educational institution to our transgender resource center, and we can provide the meaningful. That is the focus of our department, institution, transgender resource center, and that focus will remain continue. So really, I thank you for such initiative. Akanksha, you further continue. Yeah.
Can I just uh, adding on to what Sir just said and kind of answering Akanksha in a different way. Maybe a last this thing could be that yes, it's a great idea to have courses designed for communities like trans and all. But maybe on the other side, Akanksha and respected sir, what could be also explored is that if we can also put transgender issues in the mainstream courses of the university, of the college, so that when people are completing their 12th, when whatever they take as a subject, it can be even a small chapter or small anything, it can at least start from there, so that the awareness has started from a very younger age, I would say. Yeah, thank you, that's it.
Very well said. I would like to say that at NCRT level, for national level, there was a training kind of a workshop to be done. Material was developed. Several community members were also involved. And now the training materials for the teachers are being designed. Also, I today see that the state level, Delhi state level, we also developed a kind of a understanding the transgender community through education and community participation for
Great.
inclusion at daily level. So we are trying to incorporate at the content and curriculum level, and this is why Akanksha and Vishal, I hope he also represents. One is doing for the integration through the family and the community, and one is doing through the school level. So our main purpose that it must come in the mainstream of educational process, because once we do it in an isolated manner, again the purpose will not be. So our main
True.
purpose will be inclusion of entire all the communities in the system, and our efforts will remain continue for that kind of a inclusion. Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Akanksha, please.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, sir. Sir, I would also like to share with you all that TRC is planning for a source book on transgender also. So, अगर कोई contribute करना चाहते हैं तो they can contribute a paper. And apart from that, I think we should close the session now as 1 hour is over. So
It's more than 1 hour, as
Sylvie?
we discussed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Akansha,
Yes.
One thing, let me say the last word. When the discussion was happening, if you people, Santosh, Akansha, can help me in designing that under the centenary year, for example, source book on the community, you keep in the centenary year, give me the proposal. You organize so many discussions. If some case study or something to be required, 4 and 5 activities along with minimal budget, if you require to be given, I will give it to, we will also do at our level with the whatever budget available, but we will give it to the centenary committee that this is our focus and we would like to continue, so that the centenary committee would like to know that department has the focus through TRC and such budget is being required. So the vice chancellor said that as per the specialty, the departments can keep the budget. I would like to do on that, and I hope I request Akanksha, Santosh, and other members that take 2 3 days time, make a proposal of 4 5 pages, and draft you discuss, because so many things is there on me. So even if I devote 24 hours, I will not able to do. If you can do the work, we can make a committee on that aspect, and we can do that. So that kind of a focus be the part of centenary year. Thank you. Please
Sure,
do
sir.
the concluding things. Yeah.
Sure, sir.
Akansha
Sure,
ma'am,
sir. We'll
Akansha
do
ma'am,
that, sir.
Akansha ma'am,
Yeah. Yeah,
आकांक्षा
Santosh,
मैम
sir.
है ना, सिल्वी मैम से एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि ना वी आर ट्राइंग टू जॉट डाउन, बेसिकली लिखा हुआ है हमारे पास कि एक ट्रांस कम्युनिटी मेंबर से मिलने पर क्या करना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए, क्या पूछना चाहिए, क्या नहीं पूछना चाहिए, द डूज एंड डोंट्स। तो मैं आपको भेज दूंगा, आप सिल्वी मैम से एक बार उसको चेक करवा लेंगे, तो दैट विल बिकम अ डॉक्यूमेंट फॉर अस टू यूज।
Surely.
वो भी लिखो मिथ एंड मिसकंसेप्शंस
हाँ,
अबाउट द कम्युनिटी पीपल, वो भी बनाओ, वो भी डेवलप
So,
करो, गिव इन द आइडिया 5 6 आइडिया जो उसको डेवलप करो अंग्रेजी में, फिर लोग हैं हिंदी में, तो वो सब सारा एटलीस्ट जॉट डाउन 10 आइडियाज ऑन दैट, along with that, और कितनी कॉपी कितना होगा, और 3 4 दिन के अंदर हम मिथ्स एंड मिसकंसेप्शंस वो भी हम इंक्लूड करते हैं। या
to all the three of you, if you need any of my inputs in this also, I would be more than happy to help. That's fine with me. Let me know. Thank you.
Sure,
थैंक यू।
certainly,
Thank you
yeah.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, so nice of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. May I?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, conclude.
At first, I would like to thank to our today's speaker, Sylvester Merchant ma'am, for enabling us to understand with all the aspects of Garima Greh. It was well explained, and for enlightening us with all the policy points. She started from NASA judgment to the TZ Act. You have explained everything in your presentation. I must say your presentation was very informative, and I would like to say thanks to you for taking out time from your busy schedule and for being part of this platform today. And after that, I would also like to thank to our HOD sir for being always supportive to all of us, and for being source of inspiration to all of us. And at last, I would also like to say thanks to all the participants who are here, and to the TRC team. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Akansha, for organizing this for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, please visit us when you come to Delhi.
I